Alrighty then, it is time for the UFC 182 live recap and results show. Here with me, as always, for these MMA event recaps is Steven Guerrero, aka Heel Steven, aka leader of the Team Heel podcast, which I'm a part of, and that will be in the description box down below. But Steven, how's it going, my friend?
Wow, I'm good.
Yeah?
Fight overall, show overall.
Oh yeah, this show was terrible, people. Like, I'm telling you guys right now, avoid UFC 182 like the Black Plague. This show was just bad. It wasn't a good show whatsoever. I did not think any of the fights delivered. Like, if you brought people over to watch this event, I feel sorry for you. If you had a house party for this event, I feel sorry for you
I know
because
people in my area that actually did. They actually
yeah,
tell me, "Hey,
they threw the house parties.
Yo, Steve, try to come through. I gotta do, to pay $5." I'm like, yeah, all right, fuck out of here.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like, if you paid money, like a lot of money to see this fight, and you spent money on all this stuff, I feel bad for you because, boy, did this card flipping stink. This was not a good card whatsoever. A lot of boring fights, and I wasn't the only one. I was seeing on Twitter if I was like the only one saying like, "Oh, these fights are boring," but even my hardcore MMA fans were saying, friends were saying, "Man, this was a boring fight card," and it just didn't deliver whatsoever. And really, to be honest, normally me and Steven would break down a lot of the fights and tell you who won and how they won, but it's just like these fights were not entertaining whatsoever. They were just all unanimous decision fights, very one-sided fights where it doesn't take that much analysis to know who won and lost these damn fights. So the first fight of the night was Hector Lombard taking on Josh Burkman. Pretty much this was a Lombard showcase of his boxing skills. And once again, Lombard doesn't finish an opponent like I expect him to. Like, that's my problem with Hector Lombard is this guy has dynamite in his hands. This guy can actually knock out any human being, yet he just tends to toy with them and be very, very boring. I think his striking is boring. I'm sorry if you guys love Hector Lombard, but this dude is boring. He is boring when it comes down to his striking. He just toyed with Josh Burkman the whole fight. Burkman was not even trying to fight Lombard. It looked like he was just there to be a professional punching bag for Lombard tonight. So Lombard ended up winning. Who should he fight next? At this point, I don't really care. Maybe just put him with Tyron Woodley, because those are two welterweight fighters at this point that I don't care about. But Woodley's fighting Gastelum at the next event, so put him against the loser of Woodley and Gastelum. How about that? That's what you do with Hector Lombard. Steven, your thoughts?
I thought again, it's funny because I didn't know who Jeff Burkman was until I actually saw him. I remember, if you guys watched the World Series of Fighting, he's the guy that choked the fuck out of John Fitch. I remember that. I asked him, like, oh, it's him, okay. And the fight overall, like, he had his moments in the first round, and he just shut down, completely shut down. Lombard, unfortunately, didn't hit the finish. The guy was a little cocky, had his hands down and shit. I don't know what the fuck he was doing.
He was being a professional punching bag. That's what he literally was doing. He was saying, hey, man, I'm here to help you out. Look good. So just let me stand here and get my ass kicked by you. He was just being a professional punching bag. It was terrible.
There you go. I mean, after that, there you go. He won. He lost by decision. So now we'll see what happens with them. But I do agree, though, maybe the loser of the Woodley fight versus the Goslov could probably take him. But we'll see what happens.
What did you think about Lombard's performance? Were you like me, who was kind of disappointed because I don't know your extent of seeing Hector Lombard before UFC, but when this dude was in Bellator, man, he was much more dynamic. This guy was actually a fun dude to watch and would knock out people like that, man. He was just such a killer. I mean, the only time I've seen him fight like he did in Bellator is when he like destroyed Nate the Great on a pre-show. So I want to know, what did you think about Lombard's performance overall?
I agree with Joe Rogan. I felt like he was patient for his shots. I mean, it's another Hector Lombard fight, but we'll see what happens. What's next for him? We'll see what happens.
All right. Next up was a disappointing flyweight fight, which most flyweight fights are disappointing. Caio Horiguchi versus Louis Gaudinot. Louis Gaudinot was weird. He had purple hair or blue hair. I couldn't even remember. But this was disappointing. And really, to be honest, just get rid of the flyweight division, man. It's not bringing what the UFC wanted it to bring. Like, the UFC brought in the flyweight division hoping that this division would just be a bunch of little dudes going into the middle of the octagon like rock'em sock'em robots. But this was not that whatsoever. It was just a boring technical fight between these two. I wasn't even paying attention during most of this fight. I was almost half asleep watching these two fight, and I was just saying, please, one of you guys pull out a random submission or a random knockout right now, end this stupid fight, and it just wouldn't end. It felt like it was going on forever. I wasn't really impressed by Kyoji at all in this fight. Just skip. It was terrible.
I agree. I mean, this fight, it really wasn't an exciting fight whatsoever. To me, I didn't care who won. I agree with you, too. To me, the flyweight has to go. And you think about it, the flyweight division, it revolves around one guy, and that is Mighty Mouse.
Yeah.
But then again, let's face it, Mighty Mouse isn't a draw. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, he's a good fighter, all you want, but he's not a draw. I find it funny how people say, oh, he's the best fighter in the world. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, dude, like, even on the pound-for-pound list, you can't really tell me he's top 5. Like, who's he fighting in the flyweight division that's even worth his damn time? Joseph Benavidez, is that it? That's it. All the other contenders that people hype up and say, oh, this guy will give Mighty Mouse troubles, he just decimates and destroys. The only dude that has ever given him a good fight was Benavidez, and that wasn't even the second fight. That was the first ever fight for the flyweight title. I mean, he's like the only guy that gets what the flyweight division is about, that he's supposed to go out there and be like a rock'em sock'em robot. But it seems like everyone else in the division, minus Joseph Benavidez, doesn't get it. They just say, oh, we actually have to try to win fights. No, you dumb fucks. To get title shots and to be a good division in the UFC, you motherfuckers need to go out there and put on good fights. The whole reason why Dana White bought out WEC, so that way he can be able to show all these featherweight and bantamweight and flyweight fights, is because in WEC, all these guys were doing was putting on entertaining brawls. They were looking like rock'em sock'em robots out there. That's why Dana White brought these divisions into the UFC, because he felt like, oh, I'm going to get these fights when they come to the big stage. But it hasn't panned out whatsoever. Bantamweight and featherweight have had some great fights, but the flyweight division, minus the first ever title fight, no good fights in that division so far.
I agree. Absolutely. And
yeah.
Again, I didn't care who won. I didn't care who lost. The Japanese guy won. But
yeah, he won. It was like a boring fight, so who cares? All right, a middleweight battle between Brad Tavares and Nate the Great Marquardt. Oh, God, it was just so sad looking at Nate Marquardt. That dude looked like a hobo. I didn't even recognize him with that freaking giant-ass beard that he was rocking. Like, he just looked out of shape. He didn't look like he cared to be there. He was just there to pick up a paycheck and go home. Like, Brad Tavares won this fight, but it was nothing special. It wasn't like, oh, God, Brad Tavares is now, like, a threat in the middleweight division. He did nothing special. He just looked like every other fighter. And it's just, I get it. You guys are trying to win. You MMA fighters are trying to win. But at least try to win in style. Can you stop following your game plans for just one fucking minute and say to yourself, hey, I'm number 12 in the division. Why is that? Well, there's a reason why you're number 12 in the division, you dumbass. It's because you fight boring fights. If you actually fought entertaining, then you would actually be ranked higher in the division. And then afterwards, you might get that title shot you want. But keep fighting like the way you're fighting, Brad Tavares, and you won't be seeing a title shot until 2017.
That's the problem with today's fighters now. Today's fighters, they just want to win fights based on points. They're not there for the knockout or for the kill. Guys back in the day, such as Vanderlei Silva, who would go in there, and give you a fucking fight, would go in for the fucking kill. That's the problem with today's fighters. They're more of athletes than fighters, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. They don't know what the hell they're really doing out there. They're just going out there to try to win by points and win by decision. It's just like, look, I get it. You guys want to win. But really, to be honest, look at a guy like Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt has one of the worst records when it came down to overall fighting. And he made it in a pay-per-view. Why? Because Mark Hunt can put on an entertaining fight. So why don't you dumbasses that are freaking in mixed martial arts realize that guys like Chris Lieben, guys like Diego Sanchez, guys like Clay Guida in the past, these guys stayed in the UFC for as long as they did because they went out there and they fought. Think about that before you go on to a pay-per-view, especially an event like this where you know that this is going to have, a big match that everyone's going to watch. Wouldn't you think, like, hey, a lot of people are going to be watching this fight, so let me go out there and put on the best fight possible. But no, you just go out there and you put up a dud. So yeah, I'm sorry for the rants, people. It's just that I just think today's MMA fighters, a majority of them, are stupid when it comes down to fighting. I know a lot of you hardcore MMA fans don't really care, and you guys are like, oh, win's a win. But really, to be honest, when it comes down to it, if you've been watching the sport as long as I have, you know that a win is not just only a win. It's how you win. And how you win matters the most to the casual fans, which the UFC is trying to build. That's why they brought in CM fucking Punk. You were.
Oh, look who joined us.
Levi McIntyre. Levi doesn't need to talk about the first 3 fights. Those were just bum fights.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're just duds. Anyways, we get the lightweight fight between Donald Cerrone and Miles Jury. This is probably the best fight of the night, but that's not saying much because it was just a Donald Cerrone kicking Miles Jury's ass. That's pretty much what this fight was all about, was just Cerrone destroying Miles Jury and going on a 6-fight win streak that ultimately will be derailed by some top lightweight where he won't get a title shot. So, same old Donald Cerrone. Nothing new, nothing different. Steven.
I thought overall, going in, I'll be honest, I thought Miles was going to win. I really did.
Me too.
Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I think it's a matter of, hey, a younger fighter getting, took into school. He got outclassed by, a guy such as Donald Cerrone, who I like to call Donald the Jabroni Cerrone. I gave him that nickname after the Nate Diaz fight. I just did. But again, that was only it though. I mean, the guy just completely outclassed Miles Jury. Don't get me wrong though. Even though this loss has happened, he's still a future in the lightweight division.
But then again, we said the same thing about Evan Dunham when he lost to Melvin Goulart. So how much is that saying? Because the lightweight division's always stacked. It's always stacked with studs.
That is true. But then again, we'll have to see though. We'll have to wait and see. But for Donald Cerrone, what's next for him? I would say maybe Gilbert Melendez.
Yeah, Gilbert Melendez or Khabib, whoever the UFC wants to put him against, because you're going to get a good fight out of Donald Cerrone, and you know that Khabib is going to be the one that you want to push to the lightweight title scene, so might as well. Because who has Khabib faced lately? I don't remember who Mercantile faced lately.
I have no idea, to tell you the
truth. Exactly. So just put him against Cerrone. He's a well-known name. He's on a 6-fight win streak. Both guys are actually on a winning streak, 6-fight win streak, both of them. So just have those two fight, and it should be an entertaining brawl.
Or maybe the rematch, Cerrone and Diaz.
Do I really want to see that? I mean, that's not something I'm paying to see. Oh, yeah, for any of you guys who have questions about UFC 182 and UFC 183, just leave them in the comment section down below, and then we'll answer them after the stream. But most part, we're just going to be talking about the show. So, Levi, do you have any thoughts on this fight, or?
Well, I mean, considering this is the first time I've seen either one of these guys, so it goes to show you how much I've missed of MMA in the last 5 years. There you go. But considering seeing these two for the first time and hearing Miles Jury was unbeaten and Cerrone and how he is from what I've heard, I saw in this fight, I thought it was a decent fight personally. I mean, Cerrone, I liked how he worked the ground in the first round, and then at the end, Jury just lost focus, if you ask me. He just didn't do too much. Cerrone, he was outstriking him any chance he got. So really, that was really the fight in a nutshell, really.
Yeah, it was a Cerrone ass kick. Cerrone just laid an ass beating onto Miles Jury. That's pretty much what we witnessed here tonight. So that was pretty much that fight. Now, it's time for the fight that I'm pretty sure a lot of people forked over $50 for. It's the fight that a lot of people wanted to see, a lot of people watched for. There's going to be some black-on-black crime, as Rampage Jackson would say. It was going to be... What are you trying to show, Steven? I can't even see it.
Me neither.
Hold up, I got you. Boom.
I can't even see it, dude. It's still blurry.
It's really blurry.
Brand split.
No, brand split. All right, there's not going to be a UFC brand split, so we're not going to talk about that. No brand split jokes in the MMA podcast. So now, anyways, it's time to talk about the main event. Like I said, the fight that a lot of people forked their money over for and probably watched. Daniel Cormier and Jon Jones in the main event for UFC 182 now. What I will say is that this fight, for the first 3 rounds, was a really, really good fight. This was awesome. This was a fight I was expecting to see. It was a close, entertaining, dirty fight. Like, I was just enjoying it. When I mean dirty, people, I don't mean it in the mean way. I mean it in the way where it's just like, you know, these guys were dirty boxing the whole time. So it was a good fight, but then the fourth round happened, and it was a dud. And then the fifth round happened, and it was a dud. And so 2 championship fights that were really bad. Skip those, watch the first 3 rounds, and you should be good. That should get your fix if you miss this fight. But really, to be honest, Jon Jones ended up retaining the UFC light heavyweight championship. We'll go into semantics later, boys. We will go into semantics later about what's next for Jon Jones and what's next for DC. But overall, just don't break down stuff yet. Don't break down any moves you saw in the fight yet, because we're going to break that down later too. But overall, what were your thoughts about the fight, Steven?
Again, I thought the fight on paper, God, it was the most fucking amazing fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Supposed to be. On paper, the bill was great, bigger than Ken and Tito, bigger than, Misha Ronda, bigger than Rashad Rampage, bigger than Chael versus Silva. You kind of get where I'm going with this.
Chuck and Tito.
Him too.
I want to go that far.
Yeah,
Chuck and Tito was pretty awesome.
Yeah. But you kind of get the idea, though, right?
Yeah.
They titled this Bad Blood, and when you put that in the title, you would assume, okay, these 2 guys are going to go to war. They did for the first 3 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Which after, and I said, like I was telling you off the air, I personally felt that.
Hey, we will talk about that later. I just want your overall thoughts on the fight. We will talk about that later.
Jones won fairly at the end.
Levi, what did you think about the fight?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. First 3 rounds I thought were very, very entertaining. Cormier showed that he can strike with Jones. He did land some pretty heavy shots.
Mm-hmm.
Really heavy shots, too. But, yep, 4th round happened, and then and it was over right there. So,
It was really just like an entertaining fight for the first 3 rounds. Like, these guys were dirty boxing. Cormier was killing it with that right uppercut. He was killing it with the combos onto Jon Jones. But all of a sudden, Cormier decided, after Jon Jones in the 4th round took him down twice, Cormier decided, oh, I have to take this guy down, and pretty much cost him the fight. Daniel Cormier, you win by idiot of the night. You are an idiot, sir. You are the biggest idiot I've seen. Johnny Hendricks and you should sit together at a fucking table and talk about how idiotic you guys are when it comes to title fights. What the fuck are you doing? My combination, me outpacing him on my feet, that was doing a good job for the first 3 rounds. Yeah, but since he took me down, it's time for a personal vendetta. I got to take him down. I got to prove that I'm still a great wrestler. No, the fuck you don't, because it doesn't matter if you take this motherfucker down. The only thing that matters is if you walk out as a UFC light heavyweight champion, and you didn't do that. You idiot. God damn, dude, that just pissed me off. As you said, Steven, off air. It was just pretty much he wanted to take down for the sake of saying, I took Jon Jones down. That's pretty much what he was doing.
He got it, but I mean, you can't just say, oh, that, but then Jon Jones fucking took him down like 5 times.
Yeah.
Which was apparently impossible, but hey, it was possible. Again, DC, like I said, his main objective throughout this fight was to take him down, and that's it. If he stuck to the game plan like he did in round 2 and 3, he would have won the fight.
Yeah, he would have won the fight.
I even told you on Twitter that, hey, Jones looks gassed.
Yeah, he looked gassed. Jon Jones did not like the way DC was fighting him. And then the 4th round, DC, he kind of gave up that round. He didn't really do much that round. And you could tell that he was kind of tired, too, because DC threw, 212 strikes by that time. And when you're missing 30 of your strikes, man, ooh, that's not going to do good in the gas tank, Ed. Trust me, you guys throw 30 punches in the air, and or at least 212 punches in the air, you're going to feel freaking tired. And especially if you're in a real-life fight and you're connecting some and you're missing some, you're going to get gassed easily. And DC just kind of gave up that 4th round, and it was just ridiculous if you ask me. I was just like, come on. Really? DC? What was the point? That 5th round was one of the most disappointing 5th rounds of all time. And Dean, I get it, you're one of the best refs, but I've seen you break up scuffles like that in the 5th round. There was one point in the 5th round, they were literally doing nothing to clinch. For at least a minute 30, I said, why aren't you breaking this up, Herb Dean, you fucking moron? And I don't give a shit if it's in the rules or not, if it's great MMA. Look, people who paid for this fight, and this goes to Dana White too. Dana White knows this. People who paid for this fucking fight, you goofball, freaking want to see these two kill each other. We don't want to see them hump each other or look like DC's giving him a big old hug. Okay, so I'm just saying, like, Herb Dean should, at that moment of time, say, you know what, fuck it. Separate these two, because it was like a minute and 30 seconds where they were just laying there and doing nothing in the clinch. I was saying, like, short knees and that's it. It was just such a boring fifth round. So I was just like, come on, man. It's just like, separate these two. Let them go at it for the final 90 seconds. And DC, when they finally got some separation, DC goes back to the clinch game. It's like, you idiot. Punch him. Like, oh, God. I just hate when fighters fight like idiots, people. I'm sorry. I get it. Some of you guys are very hardcore, and you take this shit too seriously. But for me, I'm a hardcore fan who doesn't take this shit seriously. And for me, I know that human instincts are smarter than what I see in the cage sometimes. So I just felt DC should have said at that point, when it was like, you know, at least, like, let's see, 120 seconds left in the fight. Once they separated, he should have said, you know what, fuck this shit. I am just going to go out guns blazing. If I get knocked out, hey, at least I look like I tried to win the fight, instead of trying to gain some personal freaking interest because I took him down. Just dumb.
Absolutely. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I think after he did take him down once, I think he should have just stopped trying then and just keep throwing and try to knock him out at least.
This was, you know, like we said, overall in the start, this event sucked. This wasn't an entertaining event, and this main event was pretty much carrying this whole show. It was like, you know, reminiscent to UFC 117, where that card was kind of like a lame, lackluster card, but once you got to Silva and Sonnen, that fight delivered, and it was awesome. It was one of the best fights you'll ever see, and this fight was going on the course, but then all of a sudden in the championship rounds, DC said, hey, screw what I was doing the first 3 rounds, let me just be an idiot. And it just pissed me off to no end just to see how DC went out in this fight. Jon Jones looked really dominant. His wrestling was just superb in this fight. He just pretty much dominated DC when it came down to the wrestling department. Took him down 3 times. You know, that's unprecedented in itself, because DC has never been taken down once in a fight. So taking down an Olympian like DC 3 times during a fight, just impressive. But before we talk about more about Jon Jones and his impressiveness, what do you guys think about John? Well, Levi doesn't know this because he's just started watching again. But what do you think about Jon Jones and the whole eye poke situation? Because we all know when anyone faces Jon Jones, he does this with his hands and he pokes people in the eye. Does that really bug you guys? Because it doesn't bug me. I just think fans overreact to it. What are your thoughts, Steven, since you know?
I mean, it's the same thing goes when he does his side kick. So people, oh, that's illegal, but reality, it's not. It's part of the fight. These things happen all the time, you know? It's like, hey, if a headbutt happens, same shit, you know? Or if a low blow happens. That's how I view it, you know?
Yeah, I just didn't think it was that big of a deal, like the whole eye pokes. Like, everyone makes a big deal about it when it comes to Jon Jones. And
now, I understand why they do as well, because remember back when Bisping fought Belcher? The eye poke that caused a swelling. I understand that perspective, fine. But if that's the case, then I think the promotion should be responsible to, hey, fix the glove issue.
Yeah,
if it means make them curvy, like this to an extent, and so they'll be fucking it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you know what? Have these fighters fight with their own branded gloves. You know how boxing, you have fighters go out there and they fight with Grant gloves or Everlast gloves or Reyes boxing gloves. The same shit should happen for fighters as well in MMA.
Yeah.
Whoever they're sponsored with, like if fucking what's his name? Who fought the co-main event? Or the other, the fucking green-headed guy, right? The green guy. I forgot his name, but fuck it.
One of the flyweight idiots.
Yeah. If his sponsors Hayabusa, then I think he should be able to fight in Hayabusa MMA gloves. Yeah. In my opinion. Enough of this whole shit. Hey, we all gotta wear one brand of gloves. Fuck that shit.
Yeah, I know, because like I think the eye poking thing is not that big of a situation, because sometimes, like, especially if you're charging in and Jon Jones has that out there, It's like it's your job as a fighter. You guys study how many hours of tape. It's like when you do a football game, you're studying tape against the opponent and what to do against them. It's the same thing for fighters. You're studying tape. You know he does that with his reach instead of freaking, it just upsets me when people overreact to the whole eye poke situation. I think the eye poke thing is so overrated, and I just think it's mostly the fans' perspective on it. But anyways, Jon Jones, he looked really impressive in this fight. Minus the whole eye poking thing, which is not that big of a deal. But, he looked really impressive. And now the question is, who can stop this man, as Joe Rogan would say? So who can stop Jon Jones, and who is Jon Jones going to be facing next? Now, we all know who he may be facing next. He may be facing the winner of Anthony Rumble Johnson and Alexander Gustafsson. Jon Jones has kind of said shorthanded and small, kind of like on the inside that pretty much he wants Rumble to win. That's because he's one of those guys that likes to face new people. He doesn't care about facing old opponents. At that Time Is Now press conference, someone asked him, like, who do you want to win? And he kind of was saying, I'm leaning more towards Rumble Johnson. So he kind of said in a shorthanded comment. So, yeah, so that's going to be an interesting fight. But, Steven, do you believe Anthony Rumble Johnson or the Swedish man himself, Alexander Gustafsson, have a chance against our current reigning, defending UFC light heavyweight champion?
Maybe Gustafsson again. Maybe he can do it. Rumble, I don't know. I feel like Rumble's a little one-dimensional, in my opinion. A little bit, not much, but we'll have to wait and see, though. We'll have to wait and see.
All right. What about you, Levi?
I haven't seen too much from either fighter. Probably I've seen more.
Okay, you have to have seen stuff from Anthony Rumble. Come on.
I may have seen a few.
When did you stop watching? Because there's no way. Because Anthony Rumble Johnson was fighting around the same time when you probably were still watching, man. He used to fight at welterweight.
I stopped watching at around like 2010, 2011 time.
Yeah, so you had to see Anthony Rumble Johnson.
I have seen some of his stuff, yeah.
Not really. He was a welterweight at the time. He wasn't a light heavyweight.
Yeah, haven't seen really anything of Gustafsson, so I can't really comment too much. But I will say this: the loser of this fight, I see probably fighting DC somewhere down the road.
Okay, so you think the loser of Gustafsson versus Rumble will fight DC?
Probably.
All right, then. So Jon Jones. For me personally, I think Gustafsson is still his biggest threat when it comes down to it, because Gus did give him a big challenge, and if it wasn't for some leg kick action by Jon Jones, Gustafsson could have became the UFC light heavyweight champion. Rumble Johnson, like Steven said, he's too one-dimensional. He has a good knockout power in his hand, but then again, like whose hands have really hurt Jon Jones? Minus Machida. There really hasn't been anyone that has really hurt Jon Jones in a big way. We still don't know what Jon Jones's chin strength is like. So, Glover Teixeira was supposed to be that guy. Like, if he connected his hands with Jon Jones, it's going to be all over for Jon Jones. But that didn't happen whatsoever. Jon Jones just beat the crap out of him. And I'm pretty sure Jones is a better wrestler than Rumble Johnson. As much as I love Anthony Johnson and I would love to see him succeed, it's just that I don't see him beating freaking Jon Jones. Like, Gus is the only guy that I can see beating Jon Jones when it comes down to it. Daniel Cormier, like I said, him and Johnny Hendricks should eat together, talk about their idiotic performances, and make fun of each other. Like, that'd just be the dream right there, is just talk about how to lose championship fights. But when it comes down to it, DC, he's going to fight probably the loser, like Levi said, or maybe fight some up-and-coming light heavyweight that the UFC is trying to shove down our throats just to give DC an easy rebound win. But when it comes down to it, Jon Jones is still the champion. And I just want to address one more thing before we get into UFC 183 predictions. Pretty much is this, that Jon Jones, don't apologize for being an asshole. That's all I'm going to say. Don't apologize. We like it when people are assholes in sports. In the world of sports, we dealt with boring-ass people that like to say the same bullshit. Oh, I love God and I love my family and all that other stuff. Enough. This world is too pussified. We need more men that can act like heels, bad guys, or whatever. So, Jon Jones, don't apologize for being mean to DC. If anything, keep talking about how you kicked this man's ass. You are in the professional fighting business. Your job is to kick people's ass, and if you can rub it into their face that you kicked their ass, so be it. I don't care if people are like, oh, that's not sportsmanlike. It's like, who cares? Sportsmanship is one of the most overrated things in the world. It really is. Sportsmanship is so overrated because if any of you guys have played sports, you know those people who are dirty, and you talk shit about the people who are dirty. You do. You do. Whether you're a wrestler or a football player, a basketball player, you talk shit about them when they're dirty, and you shake their hands at the end of the game. So what? You showed sportsmanship. What does that matter? You're still talking shit about that person. Just saying, it doesn't fucking matter, Jon Jones. We like it when people are real, so keep being real with us because that's what's going to make you a better popular fighter. I guarantee you, because people like people who are real. Steven, what were your thoughts about Jon Jones apologizing after running down Cormier?
I just felt like it was kind of dumb too. Like, yo, how are you gonna apologize after you said that? I think it was in the summer where remember they were like, still, the camera was still running for ESPN or whatever. Like, oh, I would kill you.
Mm-hmm.
How are you gonna say that you're sorry after you said you would kill him?
Sure. That's true. Why would you say that? But anyways, Levi, what are your thoughts about that?
Meh. Whatever. No comment.
Levi, just some advice, bro.
What?
Change your title to your video.
I already did, like, 4 times.
Full, though? I'll just take out full.
Yeah, just put fight recap.
Review. Just review. 182 review.
No, recap, because you don't review UFCs. You're not breaking down. These guys don't have characters. All UFC fighters are boring.
That too.
Alrighty then, guys. So now we're done talking about UFC 182. Now it's time to predict the other major show, UFC 183. The Itsy Bitsy Spider, Anderson Silva, taking on Don't Be Scared, homie, Nick Diaz. The Spider returns to the UFC. The fight cards in between this event and the next one are Fight Night McGregor versus Seaver, and that's pretty much not really that good of a fight for a main event, but there's some good fights on that card. You have Benson Henderson taking on Eddie Alvarez, and the ever improving, like, what would you call Uriah Hall, Steven? Like, he's not really, like, he has a lot of hype to him, but he's not really that good.
It's a little bit of hype. I mean,
yeah,
if you're gonna tell me, I get it, fine. You're gonna say there's something about him because he fought with the fucking stub toe. I mean, who has he fought?
I would say the overhyped Uriah Hall taking on Luis Taylor, and then Norman Park takes on Gleison Tebow, who somehow is still in the UFC, which is ridiculous to me. And then the next card after that is a UFC on Fox card, Gustafsson versus Anthony Johnson. On this, you have Dan Henderson versus Gegard Mousasi, Phil Davis versus Ryan Bader, and Akira Kurosawa versus Sam Sakila.
Ryan Masturbator?
Ryan Darth Vader, get it right. But anyways, Sam Sakili. There we go. So those are the cards in between this pay-per-view card. Both cards are pretty stacked, but the main events are not really ones that are that interesting. Like, I don't think Gus versus Johnson is that interesting of a main event, if you ask me. Steven, what are your thoughts on the main events? Like, you don't have to give your fight predictions, obviously. I'm just asking, like, what are your thoughts about the main event of those two cards in between?
I mean, I think the Guts and Rumble match would be interesting because it's in Switzerland or Sweden. My bad. It's in Sweden in a soccer stadium. So I guess that element of it can make it interesting. But
right, what time? Because this is a UFC on Fox card. So what time is this shit going to be at?
I have no idea, bro. To tell you the truth.
Oh my god, fucking Dana. Get your shit together, man. But Levi, are you interested in any of these fights? Well, because you're just new to it, but are you interested in any of the main events or just the fights that you've heard you run down?
Probably Phil Davis, Ryan Bader, because I remembered watching these guys years ago.
Yeah, well, they suck now. They're kind of like middle. They're like gatekeepers of the light heavyweight division, especially Phil Davis.
At least I'm not alone in getting the damn masturbator jokes. I knew when I first.
I know when he said it. I just like Ryan Bader, so I said Darth Bader.
I know I like him too, but I just remembered first seeing this guy and seeing his name and seeing him fight. I'm thinking, oh god, here comes the masturbator jokes. And look what's happened since. Good fucking cripes.
Alrighty then. So yeah, that's pretty much UFC in between before we get into 183. The Super Bowl card Anderson Silva, Nick Diaz, the Dream Fight, the Super Fight, whatever the hell you want to call it, the Spider returns. Now, other fights on this card that we're not going to predict, but I just find interesting that these fighters are still fighting. Remember Thiago Alves, everyone? Remember Thiago Alves?
Yep.
Oh, didn't he fight GSP at one time?
Yeah, he bought GSP at UFC 100. Yeah, he bought GSP at UFC 100. Thiago Alves will be fighting Jordan Main at the welterweight division. This is most likely a pre-show fight. So, yeah, Thiago Alves is still around. We have, remember Thiago Santos? Do any of you guys remember Thiago Santos? Well, he's taking on some nobody named Andy Ernst. And then other notable dudes in this one, Ed Pee Wee Herman takes on Derek Brunson, and Ian McCall takes on John Lineker. Jesus, John Lineker just fell off, man. I mean, this dude was at one point #1 contender. Now he's fighting Ian McCall, Uncle Creepy, on the pre-show. Jesus.
Tell me about it, bro.
Alrighty then. Now it's time for, the main card fights, and I'm guessing these are the main card fights because the UFC themselves has not even made a main card fight for this one. We already know 3 fights that are going to be on the main card, but Talis Ladies, remember Talis Ladies? Well, Talis Ladies just came back, people, to the UFC, and he's been on a roll, kind of, and he's taking on Tim Boetsch, who's also an interesting fighter in the middleweight division. This is actually an interesting matchup. Both guys are good at one thing, but not good overall. Yeah. They're not good overall, but they're good at one thing. But go on, what you were going to say about Tim Boetsch?
I remember he fought Okami back in Japan, and Okami was beating the fuck out of him, and out of nowhere he came back. It was like,
it was a great comeback.
They was like, that's how you fucking do it. That's how you do it. Like,
yeah, Tim Boetsch, man. So who would you have in this fight, Steven? Would you have Tim Boetsch or Talis Ladies?
I'll be honest, I don't know who the other Ladies guy is. So
you don't know Talis Ladies? He fought Anderson Silva, and it was like one of the worst fights. Like, he just kept going to the ground, and he was like doing like this to Silva. Like, he wasn't even fighting Silva.
How long ago was this?
This was like a long ass time ago. This was during the period where Silva was fighting boring people, and so people started to hate Silva, and then Sonnen started his campaign like, I want to fight Anderson Silva. Let me fight him. Blah blah blah.
Oh, was he a light heavyweight at the time? Was he a light heavyweight or?
He was middleweight. He's a middleweight. He fought Silva once.
I'm gonna guess this was like 2008.
Nah.
Yeah, this was 2008. Yes, this was at UFC 97 Redemption. Chuck Liddell versus Shogun Rua, also on that card. Main event was Ladies versus Silva.
Okay.
You don't remember Talis Ladies?
I have to check that out, but I mean,
it was a terrible fight. You don't need to watch that fight. But
so I'm gonna go with Boetsch. I'm going with Boetsch here.
All right. What about you, Levi?
Jeez, I mean, one guy who I only heard about with the Silva fight, and then the other guy, I was thinking, this guy's not very good, so probably go with Ladies, just based off of how I thought how bad Boetsch was for a while. So, yeah.
I'm going to go with Tim Boetsch. Talis Ladies still hasn't really improved that much in the stand-up department, but if it goes to the ground, going to be an interesting matchup between these two. Okay, up next is Joe Daddy Lozon, or not Joe. Is it Joe Daddy or is it Joe Money? Whatever the fuck he is. Mr. Fight of the Night, Mr. Sub of the Night, Mr. Knockout of the Night, Joe Lozon. He has
I thought that was Joe Daddy Stevenson.
Yeah, Joe Daddy Stevenson. I forgot. Whatever. But Joe Lozon, pretty much, he's like the. What is he, like the bonus king? He always gets paid like a bunch of bonus money. So he puts on interesting fights all the time. And he's taking on Al LaQuinta. I don't know anything about this Al LaQuinta or whatever his name is. So I'm going to go with Joe Lozon here.
Yeah, Joe. I remember Joe Lozon. Yeah.
He beat Jens Pulver. Wow.
Yeah, Jens.
Yeah, that was Little Evil.
8 more minutes. Yes.
Oh God, Jens Pulver. Alrighty then. So, anyways, did someone post a comment? Okay, some guy named Cakes TV said Steven is a fool. I don't even know what that means. Steven's a cool guy. Up next is a women's bantamweight fight. Misha Cupcake Tate versus Sarah McMahon. And as always, the women's fights are always fucking awesome. And Misha Tate is really good at scraps. Sarah McMahon is really good at scraps. So this is going to be a scrappy fight between these two. And I expect Sarah McMahon to get a win. It's like Misha Tate, she's a good fighter. Like, she's definitely, like, I would compare her, like, to Diego Sanchez's or the Quay Guidas of the women's division, where like pretty much she's there just to put on an entertaining fight. That's what she's there for. She's there to put on an entertaining fight. She could win them, but she's not going to win them most of the time. So I would have to say it's Miesha Tate is going to lose this one to Sarah McMahon, who is coming off the loss of Rousey, right, Steven, if I'm correct?
I think so.
Yeah, Sarah's coming off the loss to Rousey. Both are coming off their losses to Rousey. So I'll have to give it to Sarah. I think
Sarah's more aggressive out of the two.
Yeah, more aggressive. So I'm going with Sarah McCann to win this fight. But I like Miesha. I do like Miesha Cupcake Tate.
I mean, based off of what I've seen from these two, from like highlights of past fights they had, Sarah's definitely a better ground fighter, I feel. Miesha, I think she does have good stand-up, but I think I could see Sarah pulling it off here. Take her to the ground, tap her out. There you go.
All right. And now we get on to the co-main event. We have Tyron Woodley versus Calvin Gastelum. Tyron Woodley's coming off that loss to he lost to Lawler, right? He lost to Robbie.
I think so.
Yeah, and then Kevin Gastelum is coming off a win. Kelvin Gastelum is coming off a huge win in Mexico. So this is going to be an interesting fight. Kelvin Gastelum has never lost in his UFC career.
That's the guy that beat Jake Ellenberger, right, in Mexico?
Yeah, Jake Ellenberger. There we go. I was trying to remember who he fought in Mexico. But Jake Ellenberger, well, fuck. Gastelum versus Woodley. This is going to be an interesting fight because, Woodley's still a tough fighter. Gastelum, though, is undefeated. This is going to be Gastelum's kind of biggest test because Jake Ellenberger decided, hey, I don't like to fight entertaining anymore. So when it comes down to it, I got to give Gastelum the edge here. So because I just think that he's a better overall fighter than Woodley, but Woodley still has that knockout power and that good takedown defense that can cause Gastelum a little bit of troubles. And Gastelum, he loves to go for those takedowns early. Steven, your thoughts?
I'm gonna go Woodley here.
No, you're gonna go with Tyron.
Yeah, I'm going with T Wood.
T Wood, okay. What about you, Levi? I know you probably don't know anything about these two dudes.
Nah, but if I were to probably pick, probably go with Kelvin.
Okay, we're gonna play a game with Levi people since he doesn't know these two dudes. We're gonna ask Levi, what is the race of these two fighters? So, what is the race of Tyron Woodley, Levi? What do you think Tyron Woodley is?
Black.
Yes, he is black. What about Kelvin Gastelum?
White.
Wrong. He's Hispanic. He's an Hispanic boy. But good job guessing Tyron. What gave Tyron Woodley away? The name Tyron? I don't know. I think Levi disappeared.
Oh no.
No, he disappeared. We're about to wrap this up, people.
Maybe it was the brand split. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe it was the brand split. But if Levi doesn't come back in time, thank you, Levi, for joining me on this adventure. Because we are going to wrap this up with our prediction for the best fight of all time, the fight I've been looking forward to since it's been announced like last summer. I was so hyped up when they announced this. The Spider is back. I'm back. Trust me, I'm back. Taking on, don't be scared, homie, Nick Diaz. Now, these two, they're not going to be entertaining us like Jones and DC were when it came down to the promos and the mic and everything. But it's just that these two are fighting. It's just so fucking awesome that I can't wait to see it. It's going to be at middleweight, so Diaz is kind of at a disadvantage, but not really because Diaz used to fight at middleweight back in the good old days. So it's going to be an interesting fight between Anderson Silva and Nick Diaz. But I'm sorry, Nick. I love you. You're my boy. I got to go with my other boy, Anderson the Spider Silva.
Hey, that's big sport. I'm happy, Well, take to Lorenz, take to Dana White. But me, I'm just working.
So are you going?
I mean, I'm a Nick Diaz fan. Always been, always will be.
Yeah, I am too.
But I'm really caught in because I'm a fan of both fighters here. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, my heart's with Nick, but at the same time, I want to see Silva make a comeback. You know what I mean? If you think about it, right? That's
a question I wanted to ask you, Stephen. What happens if Anderson Silva loses this fight?
Just retire, I think.
But he just signed like a 10-fight contract.
I don't know. I mean, he'll probably be a special attraction. You gotta.
Well, you can't keep like okay. See, Silva's a great guy. He's a excellent fighter, one of the best of all time. But you can't just be trotting out this guy as a special attraction.
I think the problem is a lot of fans, they want to see Silva win because for a lot of casual fans, not a lot of casuals, right? They want to see him fight Weidman again because they want to see Silva knock out Chris Weidman.
Yeah, people hate Chris Weidman for whatever reason. Levi, give your quick prediction on Anderson Silva and Nick Diaz. Who's winning this one?
Oh, well, considering Silva's coming back after that gruesome leg break, I remember seeing that. That was one of the most brutal things ever. I remember Nick Diaz from like 10 years ago when he first came in. He was pretty good. I mean, he knocked out Robbie Lawler at UFC 46.
Yeah.
Or no, it was 47. It was 47. Yeah, that was Robbie Lawler back when he was first starting.
Mm-hmm.
Both guys started around the same time, but I don't know how Nick Diaz has gotten after like 2000.
He's really good now. Like his boxing is really, really good. His jiu-jitsu is kind of there, like he can use it, but he doesn't really use it that much. But he's definitely much better than when you last saw him.
Well, I figured, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I mean, who knows how Silva's going to, like I said, who knows how he's going to be nowadays coming back after that leg break. But I'm still going to go with Silva to win this. I think he's going to come back strong and beat Nick Diaz.
So, yeah, because I want Silva to win because I'm an Anderson Silva fan, and he's one of my favorite fighters to watch. I don't care what anyone says.
I'm not the biggest Anderson Silva fan, but I got a ton of respect for the guy. Yeah. I cannot stand Nick or Nate Diaz. Fuck those guys. Good fighters, but I don't know what it is.
Did you ever like Chael Sonnen?
It was alright. I didn't really care too much for him. Good fighter, but didn't care too much for him.
Alright, so I guess it's kind of weird. You're a wrestling fan. You're supposed to like those trash talkers.
Indeed.
Alright.
Yeah, guys.
Alrighty then. So, anyways, see you all next time. I hope you guys enjoy. You guys can check out Heel Steven at youtube.com/Heel Steven. Also at the Team Heel podcast. What's it called? Shoutbox?
Shoutengine.com/Team Heel podcast. We're also available on Stitcher Radio. Matter of fact, the Team Heel podcast will be up by Thursday. Due to the fact I'll be out for some particular reasons.
So we have to record that early. That's cool with me. So yeah, it's Team Heel Podcast. You can check out Levi at youtube.com/FlashManiac99. And you guys can check out me by hitting the subscribe button. I do wrestling, sports, and MMA on this channel. And I always recap the big UFC events here on the Google Hangout with Heel Steven and Simon Nyko. And maybe now Levi McIntyre since he's getting back into the sport of the mixed martial arts. So I'll see you all next time. If you guys are wrestling fans, you guys know Wrestle Kingdom's about to start. So if you guys are going to go watch that, go watch that and enjoy your night. So have yourself a good one. I'll see you all next time. Peace.
Peace.